Imagine a group of grown women hugging so violently you genuinely hope their ribs implode. They press their temples together like telepathic, murderous children from a horror film, squealing in a high-pitched collective trance. I love you, Bunny. I love you, Bunny. This is not a cult. It is an elite Ivy League creative writing program. Welcome to Quiet Books, your sanctuary for dark thrillers, psychological mysteries, and the deep, unsettling secrets hidden beneath the surface of your favorite stories. Today, we are decoding Bunny by Mona Awad, a psychological fever dream about academic isolation, toxic female friendships, and a sinister secret that blurs the line between artistic creation and absolute madness. If you have ever felt like an outsider looking in, or if you have ever wanted to belong so badly that you would willingly destroy your own identity to fit in, this story is going to hit terrifyingly close to home. But as we dissect this pastel-colored house of mirrors, you will realize that the monsters in this elite university are not just in the students' imaginations. They are walking the halls, drinking from sippy cups, and waiting for the next harvest. Our guide through this pastel hell is Samantha Heather Mackey. Samantha is a scholarship student at Warren University, completely broke, creatively blocked, and utterly alone. She lives in a decaying, damp apartment in a rotting, violent town that feels miles away from the gilded, wealthy campus she attends. Samantha's existence is defined by a profound, suffocating lack. She has no family, no money, and no inspiration. Her writing has dried up, leaving her to stare at blank pages while her classmates produce effortless, highly praised work. In this hostile academic wilderness, Samantha has only one anchor. Her name is Ava. Ava is Samantha's only friend, a sharp, cynical dropout who wears fishnets, smells of rain and smoke, and possesses a razor-sharp tongue that cuts through the university's pretension like a scalpel. Together, Samantha and Ava form a protective, insular alliance of two. They spend their days sitting in local diners and coffee shops, watching the Bunnies, the four wealthy, twee-dressed girls who dominate their Master of Fine Arts cohort, with pure, venomous disdain. To Samantha and Ava, the Bunnies are a collective monstrosity. They do not seem to exist as individuals. They dress alike, in pastel cardigans, Mary Janes, and Peter Pan collars. They speak in a synchronized, infantile dialect, constantly touching, hugging, and whispering sweet nothings into each other's ears. They are Eleanor, the wealthy, aristocratic leader whom Samantha calls the Duchess; Caroline, the sugary, passive-aggressive cupcake; Kira, the loud, babyish creep; and Victoria, the silent, brooding vixen. To look at them is to look at a wall of impenetrable, wealthy privilege. They represent everything Samantha is not. They are rich, confident, adored, and creatively fertile. But watch closely, because the dynamic of this toxic ecosystem is about to shift. It happens at a faculty party, a sterile gathering of academic elites where Samantha is doing her best to blend into the wallpaper. Across the manicured lawn, Eleanor, the Duchess, looks directly at Samantha. She does not sneer. She does not turn away. Instead, she waves a manicured hand and smiles a warm, inviting smile. Instead of looking away, instead of sneering back alongside Ava, Samantha waves back. It is a tiny, reflex action, but it is the first crack in Samantha's armor. It is the moment she admits, if only to herself, that she does not just hate the Bunnies. She envies them. She wants what they have. And that tiny, repressed desire is the wedge the Bunnies will use to pry her mind wide open. The next morning, the trap is set. Samantha walks down the stairs of her decaying apartment building and opens her rusted mailbox. Inside, lying among the bills and junk mail, is a piece of paper folded into a perfect origami swan. Samantha carefully unfolds it. Written in loopy pink ink, surrounded by bloated, hand-drawn hearts, is an invitation to Smut Salon, the Bunnies' highly exclusive, top-secret weekly gathering. For a girl who has spent an entire academic year being ignored, mocked, and frozen out in workshops, this invitation is a psychological landmine. It triggers a dangerous, shameful yearning to belong. It is a classic grooming tactic. Isolate the target, make them feel worthless, and then throw them a lifeline wrapped in pink ribbon. Even as Samantha runs into Jonah, a heavily medicated, awkward outcast poet who actually appreciates her dark, twisted writing, her mind is entirely consumed by the bunnies. Jonah represents a safe, honest path to connection, but his reality is too clunky, too real. Samantha is already drifting toward the siren song of the pastel elite. Later that night, on a sagging, rain-slicked rooftop, Samantha and Ava drink heavy, cheap sangria and practice the tango. They lead each other through the steps in the dark, pretending to guide each other through a life that feels increasingly hostile and empty. But the invitation is ticking in Samantha's pocket like a bomb. When Samantha finally musters the courage to confess that she received the origami swan, the atmosphere instantly freezes. Ava, with her sharp, protective instincts, immediately senses the danger. She knows that the moment Samantha steps into the bunny's circle, their sacred alliance of two will be shattered. Ava pulls out her lighter, flicking the flame to life, and holds it toward the pink paper, offering to burn the temptation away. But Samantha stops her. She pulls the invitation back. She makes excuses, claiming she has to survive workshop with them, that she just wants to be polite, that it is just a silly party. But we know the truth. Samantha is already hooked on the possibility of being loved by the people she pretended to despise. Ava, realizing she cannot save her friend from her own destructive desires, coldly tells her to go. It is a devastating parting of ways, a quiet fracture that leaves Samantha entirely vulnerable to the forces waiting for her in the dark. Minutes later, Samantha stands on the cold marble steps of a luxury house on the wealthy side of town. The autumn air smells of falling leaves and faint, sweet rot. She reaches out and rings the bell. The door swings open, and there they are. Caroline, the sugary cupcake, smiles a blinding, perfect smile. Inside, the bunnies are waiting in a candlelit circle, clutching their notebooks like weapons. But they are not glaring. They are not whispering. They are looking at Samantha as if she is the sun, as if her arrival is the piece of the puzzle they have been waiting for all along. But as the heavy oak door shuts behind her, sealing her inside their warm, scented world, we have to ask ourselves, is this an act of sisterhood? Or have they just successfully lured their prey directly into the slaughterhouse? At the smut salon, the air is thick with the scent of burning lavender, expensive perfume, and something metallic and sweet. But beneath this sugary surface lies a carefully prepared trap. The moment Samantha sits down in the circle, she is handed a drink created just for her. It is called the Samantha. It is dark, acidic, and violently bitter, tasting of burnt sugar and vinegar. This drink is the perfect metaphor for how the bunnies view her. She is a toxic, intense curiosity they want to consume. It represents the raw, bitter energy Samantha possesses, an energy they lack in their own sheltered, wealthy lives. But Samantha, desperate to belong, swallows the bitterness and smiles. She is willing to poison herself if it means she gets to stay in the room. To survive in their world, she must accept their version of her. As the night deepens, the cult-like grooming begins in earnest. The bunnies take turns performing bizarre, sterile rituals of eroticism and creativity. One shaves a cinnamon stick with feverish, aggressive strokes. Another recites fairy tales while draped in a blood-red cloak. It is a highly calculated, theatrical display of controlled passion. It is art as a performance, devoid of real blood or feeling. But when it is Samantha's turn, they demand her absolute truth. They do not want her to perform their sterile pastel rituals. They want her grit. They want her darkness. They want the raw, bleeding core of her pain. And so, Samantha lies. She does not give them her actual pain, her grief over her dead mother, her shame over her poverty, her terror of failing. Instead, she spins a fabricated, highly dramatic tale about a high school crush, a boy named Rob Valencia. She claims they died together in a school play, and then ravaged each other like wolves in the dark woods. It is a dark, primal story of sex, death, and teenage obsession. Exactly the kind of raw, dangerous energy these sheltered, wealthy girls crave. They eat it up. They lean in, their eyes wide and glassy, murmuring their collective chant. I love you, Bunny. I love you, Bunny. By giving them this lie, Samantha unknowingly gives them the keys to her psyche. She has proven that she will perform whatever role they demand of her, and she has given them a blueprint of her deepest, most pathetic romantic fantasies. Then comes the final, chilling ritual of the night. The Duchess, Eleanor, leans in and whispers a command. She tells Samantha to go outside and bring them a bunny. Draped in a red cloak, drunk on the bitter, acidic liquor, Samantha wanders out into the freezing dark of the backyard. The grass is stiff with frost. In a surreal, dreamlike sequence, a heavy, soft white rabbit leaps out of the bushes and lands directly in her lap. It does not run. It does not struggle. It sits there, warm and vibrating with life. This is our first major clue that the boundaries of reality are beginning to warp. This is not just a quirky hazing ritual for an elite writing club. The bunnies are practicing a strange alchemical magic, and Samantha has just participated in her first harvest. The next morning, the illusion cracks. Samantha wakes up in her squalid, decaying apartment, smelling of cinnamon, stale sugar, and damp earth. The warmth of the salon is gone, replaced by the cold reality of her poverty. She looks out her barred window, and there, sitting on the fire escape, is a real rabbit. It stares at her with slitty, black, knowing eyes before leaping away into the gray morning. The horror is no longer confined to the Duchess's pastel living room. It has followed her home. The magic has bled through the cracks of her reality. When Samantha arrives at workshop later that day, the atmosphere is suffocating. Workshop is held in a windowless, concrete basement theater called The Cave. It is a sterile, academic space where students dissect each other's souls under the guise of literary critique. The bunnies are there, looking pristine, clear-eyed, and entirely unhungover, as if the bizarre rituals of the night before never happened. In this space, they discuss the body, performing trauma, and interrogating the text with detached, intellectual snobbery. Yet their attitude toward Samantha has completely shifted. When they critique her writing, they no longer look at her with cold disgust. Instead, they call her work compelling, vulnerable, and desperate. They are slowly pulling her into their circle, rewriting her identity to fit their collective mind. They are workshop critiquing her very existence, chipping away at her rough edges until she fits their aesthetic. But as Samantha falls deeper and deeper under their spell, a terrifying realization begins to dawn on her. Her only anchor to the real world, her sharp-tongued, fiercely loyal friend Ava, is completely missing. All week, Ava is nowhere to be found. Her house is dark, her usual spots at the diner are empty, and her phone is silent. This is the ultimate red flag. By accepting the bunnies' invitation, by drinking their bitter nectar and participating in their bizarre rituals, Samantha has stepped onto a path that is systematically isolating her from the only person who kept her sane. The trap has sprung, and Ava's sudden disappearance is the first warning sign that the cost of joining the bunnies might be Samantha's own soul. If you thought the first rabbit was just a bizarre hazing ritual, pay close attention to what happens next, because the boundary between fiction and flesh is about to dissolve entirely. In the days following the smut salon, the campus of Warren University undergoes a subtle, terrifying transformation. Suddenly, the grounds are crawling with rabbits. They are everywhere, darting across the manicured lawns, sitting on the stone steps, staring at Samantha from the shadows of the Gothic architecture. They do not run away when she approaches. They stand their ground, watching her with an eerie, collective intensity. This is our first clue that the magic from the salon has bled permanently into the real world. The barrier between what is written and what is real is thinning, and the rabbits are the physical manifestation of that leak. Meanwhile, the bunnies are suddenly acting like Samantha's best friends, smothering her with affection and creepy, highly symbolic gifts. They leave a sharp black rock on her desk for her altar. They give her a tiny silver key with no lock. They whisper secrets in her ear during lectures, their hot breath smelling of mint and copper. They are rewriting her history, acting as if she has always been part of their collective we. Desperate for a reality check, desperate to find some anchor to the world she used to know, Samantha seeks out Ava at their local tango class. The dance studio is dusty and dark, a stark contrast to the bright, sterile spaces of the university. But when Samantha finds Ava, the reunion is cold and jarring. Ava is distant, her eyes guarded, and she is wearing a brand new, expensive rabbit fur coat. This is a massive red flag. When Samantha asks about the coat, Ava claims a mysterious lover shot and skinned the rabbit for her. But symbolically, Ava is wearing the very thing Samantha is running from. It is a physical manifestation of Ava's intense jealousy and her desperate, toxic attempt to claw back Samantha's attention. If Samantha is going to play with bunnies, Ava will wear their pelts. Feeling completely alienated by Ava's cold shoulder, Samantha is left entirely vulnerable. And that is exactly when the bunnies strike. They invite her to a prom night-themed party at Eleanor's mansion. When Samantha arrives, she is immediately separated from the rest of the guests. The bunnies drag her into a bedroom, lock the door, and force her onto a vanity stool. With painful, aggressive tugs, they begin twisting her hair into a tight, medieval updo, pinning it so hard her scalp bleeds. As they work, they begin grilling her about her past. Specifically, they want to know about her high school crush, the boy from her smut salon story, Rob Valencia. They claim they just stalked her on Facebook, but in hindsight, this is a chilling interrogation. They are not just gossiping. They are gathering the raw materials, the specific details, and the emotional resonance they need for their next creation. They are treating her memories like a rough draft, editing and refining the details of Rob's face, his voice, and his tragic death. When Samantha is finally allowed to step into the living room, she is greeted by a scene straight out of a retro romance novel. The room is decorated with tinsel and pink lights, and standing around the punch bowl is a group of impossibly handsome, tuxedo-clad men. But as Samantha walks among them, she realizes something is deeply, fundamentally wrong. These men have vacant, glassy eyes that do not seem to focus on anything. They speak in stilted, melodramatic cliches, their voices flat and devoid of inflection. And most importantly, they are all wearing thick, black leather gloves and drinking from plastic sippy cups. Here is the key to the entire mystery. These are not real men. They are drafts. In the world of Bunny, the girls' writing workshops are not just academic exercises. They are literal acts of creation. The bunnies take actual rabbits, subject them to a violent, magical ritual of collective imagination, and mutate them into the physical manifestations of their romantic fantasies. But because the bunnies are terrible, shallow writers who rely on cliches and tropes, their creations are deeply flawed, uncanny puppets. The black leather gloves hide their raw, animal claws. The sippy cups are necessary because their mouths are not fully formed to drink from normal glasses. They are living, breathing bad writing. Suddenly, Agonizing, high-pitched screams echo from the upstairs bedroom. It is a sound of pure animal terror, followed by a wet, tearing noise. The bunnies disappear upstairs, leaving Samantha alone with the vacant draft boys. Minutes later, the girls return. They are flushed, disheveled, and smelling of copper, sweat, and cheap perfume. This was the sound of the ritual, the sound of a rabbit being torn apart and reshaped by the violent force of their collective imagination. There is a soft knock at the front door. The bunnies smile, their faces lit with a manic, triumphant glow, and tell Samantha to open it. Samantha walks to the door, her heart hammering against her ribs, and pulls it open. Standing on the threshold, drenched in the pink light of the porch, is Rob Valencia. To Samantha, this is a miracle. Her teenage dream, the boy she has obsessed over and mourned for years, has walked right out of her memories and onto the porch. But look closely at the details. This Rob is wearing the exact same black leather gloves as the other drafts. He speaks in bizarre, robotic sentences, repeating the exact lines Samantha wrote in her teenage diaries years ago. He even looks at her and whispers a bizarre phrase, telling her to believe because it makes sex faster. The bunnies did not track down her high school crush. They constructed him. They took her deepest, most pathetic, repressed yearning, mixed it with a living rabbit, and birthed a monster designed to make her one of them. And as Samantha falls into Rob's arms, weeping with a mixture of terror and relief, she has no idea she is embracing a corpse of her own making. As Samantha sways on the dance floor in the arms of Rob Valencia, a sickening realization begins to set in. This is not a romantic dream. It is a biological nightmare. If you look closely at this scene, the clues about what these boys actually are hidden in plain sight. Around the room, the other bunnies are dancing with their dates, but the boys are not acting human. They are vacant, glazed over, and constantly chewing. One is gnawing on a peach dress strap. Another is chewing a lock of hair. A third is mindlessly sucking on a pearl necklace. They are behaving like animals, because that is exactly what they are. They are rabbits trapped in the skin of men, their primal instincts constantly clawing to the surface of their handsome, constructed faces. When Rob leans down and begins aggressively eating the orchid corsage off Samantha's wrist, chewing the petals with a wet, frantic hunger, she panics. The illusion of her perfect high school romance shatters. She pulls away, and in a moment of pure, instinctual terror, she slaps him across the face. The slap breaks the spell. Rob's eyes fill with a sudden, vicious rage. The stilted, romantic dialogue is gone. Instead, he spits out a torrent of harsh, ugly truths that Samantha has been desperately hiding from herself. He yells about her toxic victim complex, her deep-seated elitism, her jealousy of the bunnies, and the scandalous truth that she slept with her married Professor Allen for preferential treatment. Rob is not just a boy. He is a mirror of Samantha's darkest, most repressed thoughts. Because he was created from her mind, he knows every shameful secret she has ever kept. When the psychological weight of her rejection becomes too much, when she refuses to accept the ugly truth he is reflecting back at her, the construct fails. Rob's head literally explodes. Blood, brains, and bone rain down on the pristine hardwood floor of the mansion. It is a shocking, visceral moment of horror that Samantha's brain simply cannot process. The shock is so intense that her mind shuts down. She blacks out, escaping the carnage into a dark, silent void. She wakes up the next morning in Kira's hyper-feminine bedroom. The room is a suffocating sea of pink silk, stuffed animals, and the cloying scent of vanilla. Samantha is heavily drugged, her mind floating in a warm, sluggish haze caused by mysterious pink pills the bunnies are constantly feeding her. This is where the psychological grooming begins in earnest. The bunnies crowd around the bed, stroking her hair, whispering that what she saw is just what she thinks she saw. They call it a bad dream and tell her she had too much punch. They gaslight her with a gentle, terrifying sweetness, stripping away her confidence in her own senses. They strip away her identity, dressing her in a ridiculous, childlike dress covered in crowned kittens, forcing her into a state of regression. Under the influence of the pills and their constant, suffocating affection, Samantha's memories of the carnage dissolve into a warm, compliant haze. She stops questioning. She stops fighting. She lets them rewrite her reality. To celebrate her recovery, they take her to a cafe that serves everything in miniature. They order tiny cups of coffee, tiny plates of pastries, and tiny sandwiches. This is a brilliant symbolic representation of the bunnies' desire to control and shrink reality. They want to reduce the messy, terrifying world into something small, cute, and manageable. And it is here, over miniature cups of espresso, that they finally reveal their secret. They are not writing stories anymore. They are performing the body. In the ultimate act of academic pretension, they have bypassed the written word entirely to create physical, breathing hybrids, or drafts. They tell her that writing on paper is dead, flat, and passive. True creation must be physical. It must bleed. To show her how it is done, to fully initiate her into their coven, they bring Samantha to Kira's attic for a secret workshop. They slip a heavy rabbit mask over her face, feed her more of the pink pills, and begin a dark, occult ritual. Under a ceiling painted like a child's heaven, a real, living rabbit is placed in the center of a chalk circle. The bunnies begin to chant, their voices merging into a single, vibrating frequency. The air in the attic grows thick, hot, and heavy with the scent of copper. The rabbit in the circle begins to shake, its eyes turning red, its body expanding and warping, until, with a wet, deafening pop, it explodes. Out of the blood and viscera, a boy is born. But creation is messy, especially when executed by committee. The first draft, whom they name Odysseus, is horribly deformed. He sports a severe hairlip, his limbs are twisted at unnatural angles, and he begins to shriek in primal, animal terror. He is a failed draft. And when a draft does not meet their aesthetic standards, the bunnies do what any ruthless writers do. They kill their darlings. Victoria, without a single trace of emotion on her face, steps forward, raises a heavy axe, and brutally executes the screaming boy. It takes 3 more bloody attempts, 3 more explosions, and 3 more executions before they get it right. Finally, Odysseus version 4 emerges from the blood. He is perfect. He is sandy-haired, blue-eyed, and speaks fluent French. When he looks at Samantha through the steam of his own birth and asks her to tell him everything, her resistance completely evaporates. By inviting Samantha into this twisted creative process, the bunnies have given her the ultimate drug. They have given her godlike power. She is no longer a blocked, lonely writer. She is a creator of life. But as Samantha joins their bloody huddle hug on the university green, completely blind to the horror she has just witnessed, we have to ask, is she the writer of this story, or has she just become the bunny's latest, most fragile draft? Imagine creating the perfect boy out of thin air, only to realize he is missing his hands, his genitals, and his soul. This is the horrific reality of the bunny's magic. They are not creating life. They are drafting monsters. And when these draft boys inevitably glitch, when they scream, bite, or when their heads literally explode because they are asked a simple question about themselves, the bunnies do not panic. They simply put on their pearl-lined aprons and grab the axe.
Samantha is slipping deeper and deeper into the hive mind, losing her own voice to the collective, sugar-coated we of the workshop. She no longer thinks of herself as Samantha. She is Bunny. To the Bunnies, these failed creations are just interactive art installations, temporary playthings to be discarded when they get boring. When a draft does not work out, when he starts showing too much animal aggression or too much robotic repetition, they simply drive him to the edge of town and abandon him in the dark woods. Samantha tries to question the ethics of this, but Eleanor, the undisputed leader, simply smiles. To Eleanor, morality is just a silly, outdated concept. Samantha is too drugged on pinkberry yogurt, compliments, and pills to care. But just as the illusion of this pastel paradise feels complete, reality strikes. While walking down a steep, gloomy hill on her way back to her apartment, Samantha is suddenly grabbed from behind. A hand in a black mesh glove covers her mouth, and she is dragged into a dark, trash-filled alley. It is Ava. Samantha is so deeply brainwashed, so thoroughly medicated, that she barely recognizes her best friend. Samantha is wearing her ridiculous, childish dress covered in crowned kittens, a physical manifestation of the psychological regression the Bunnies demand of her. Ava looks at Samantha's vacant, glassy eyes, her synthetic clothes, and her scrubbed clean face, and delivers a cold, hard dose of reality, telling her that she is in a cult. At a grimy local diner, sitting in a booth that smells of old grease and floor cleaner, Ava tries to pull Samantha back to earth. She reveals that she has been searching for Samantha for 2 months. She has been climbing her fire escape, waiting outside her locked door, and calling her phone until the voicemail filled up. But Samantha's brain is literally glitching. As Ava speaks, her mind flashes back to the horrific secrets of the workshop that she has been trying so hard to repress. She remembers Beowulf 7, whose hands were permanently hidden in leather gloves because they were still raw, bleeding paws. She remembers Big Rig, whose head literally detonated when she asked him a simple personal question about his childhood. She remembers Lancelot biting her flesh and Eleanor slaughtering him with an axe. This is the creation Samantha has been participating in. It is volatile, bloody, and entirely unnatural. But the horror escalates when Ava reveals she is leaving town. She cannot watch Samantha destroy herself anymore. Samantha panics. Ava is her last anchor to sanity, the only person who knew who she was before she became Bunny. But before she can beg her to stay, the Bunnies descend upon the diner like pastel vultures. The contrast is jarring, with their bright, eager eyes and colorful cardigans cutting through the grimy, gray atmosphere of the diner. Sensing the immediate danger Samantha is in, Ava covers for her, spinning a wild, dramatic lie to the Bunnies about Samantha being attacked in the woods by a wolf boy. The Bunnies eat up the drama, their eyes lighting up at the narrative potential of a monster in the woods. But Eleanor's eyes remain cold, calculating, and fixed on Ava. Eleanor approaches Ava, offering a polite, chillingly passive-aggressive warning disguised as small talk. She asks Ava about her childhood pets, which is a subtle, terrifying nod to the rabbits they mutate in their attic. She is letting Ava know that she knows what she is and what she is capable of. Terrified and disgusted, Ava walks out into the rainy night, leaving Samantha behind in the booth. When Samantha finally breaks free of the Bunny's grasp and runs after her, the parking lot is empty. Ava is already gone, swallowed by the dark. Left alone in the wet parking lot, Eleanor's mask completely slips. She looks at Samantha with a mixture of pity and supreme, chilling authority, calling her Samantha instead of Bunny for the first time in weeks. It is a quiet, devastating reminder of who holds the power in this relationship. And then, Jonah, the awkward classmate, appears from the shadows. He innocently asks Samantha about the rabbits she was seen talking to on the green back in the fall. It is a chilling clue that points to a dark alternative possibility. Was the magic ever real, or has Samantha's mind been fractured from the very beginning? Are the rabbits real, or are they just the hallucinations of a lonely, grieving girl who has completely lost her grip on reality? Ava is gone, vanished into the freezing rain. Desperate to find her, Samantha wanders the dark streets of Warren, eventually climbing into the car of her awkward, well-meaning classmate, Jonah. As they drive aimlessly through the storm, the windshield wipers slapping a frantic rhythm, Jonah asks the one question Samantha has been running from. He wants to know why she is hanging out with the Bunnies when she absolutely hates them. This is the core of Samantha's tragedy. Jonah represents reality, which is clunky, honest, safe, and deeply unglamorous. But Samantha is addicted to the illusion of the Bunnies. We learn the devastating depth of her isolation in this scene. Her mother died in a horrific car crash when she was 13, and her father is a fugitive on the run from the law. She has no home, no family, and now, no Ava. Her hunger for belonging, for a mother's touch, for a sister's love, is so ravenous that she is willing to swallow the Bunnies' toxic, sugary poison just to feel held. She would rather live in a beautiful, blood-soaked lie than face the cold, empty truth of her existence. When she finally returns to Eleanor's mansion, she expects to be banished for her association with Ava. Instead, she is love-bombed. The Bunnies do not kick her out. They wrap her in a suffocating pastel-colored group hug, showering her with tears and kisses. And then, they hand her a live rabbit. It is a test. They want her to lead the workshop. They want her to unleash her raw, dark imagination and create her own darling. They want her to prove she is fully initiated into their coven. But Samantha fails. She stares at the rabbit, trying to conjure a man, a fantasy, a lover, anything. She tries to force her mind to write the magic, but nothing happens. The rabbit just sits there in the chalk circle, twitching its nose, mocking her. Why? Because to perform their twisted alchemy, you need pure, unadulterated desire. You need to believe in the fantasy. But Samantha's only true, authentic desire is Ava. And her subconscious refuses to sacrifice Ava's memory to the hive mind. She cannot fake the shallow, plastic lust the Bunnies thrive on. Her heart is not in their pastel romance. The rabbit simply hops away, unchanged, leaving Samantha standing alone in her failure. This failure is a massive turning point. It exposes the crack in Samantha's assimilation. She is not, and will never be, one of them. She is a bad writer in their genre. Outside in the falling snow, as they leave the mansion, they spot a dark, brooding boy smoking at a bus stop. The Bunnies, completely blinded by their own delusion, assume he is Samantha's creation, a hot bus weirdo brought to life by her subconscious. But he is entirely human. He mocks their bizarre, intrusive questions, telling them a dark, disturbing story about a wolf tearing a rabbit's throat out, which the Bunnies find beautiful and raw. This scene is a crucial clue. It shows how far the Bunnies have drifted from reality. They can no longer distinguish between their grotesque magic and a normal, cynical teenager. They have lived in their own draft for so long that the real world has become a fiction to them. By the final workshop of the semester, Samantha's failure has made her an outcast once again. The love bombing is over, replaced by a cold, passive-aggressive freeze-out. She is ignored in class, excluded from the holiday gift-giving, and forced to endure a patronizing writing exercise about home, which is a direct, cruel jab at her rootless, lonely life. At the department cookie party, she is handed a bag of warped gingerbread men with sinister icing eyes, a perfect metaphor for the artificial, monstrous world she tried so hard to fit into. They are sweet, but they are deformed. But as she tries to escape the campus and head back to her apartment, she is stopped by a towering, intimidating figure. The Lion, her enigmatic and predatory academic advisor, demands she step into his office. The trap is closing, and Samantha is running out of places to hide. The illusion of belonging is a fragile thing, and for Samantha, winter break is where it completely shatters. As the campus empties for the holidays, Samantha is left entirely alone in the freezing cold, her mind unraveling. But first, She is forced to face the lion in his dark, wood-paneled office. He confronts her about her lack of progress on her thesis. When she tells him her work is still in the drafting phase, the double meaning is sickening. He thinks she is talking about her novel. We know she is talking about the monstrous, half-formed boys she has been conjuring and discarding with the bunnies. The lion warns her that she is on the verge of failing out of the program, losing her scholarship, and being cast out into the cold. He is the last tether to her actual reality, and she lies to his face, telling him she has a plane ticket to visit family.
But there is no plane. There is no family. Instead, Samantha retreats to her squalid, unheated apartment, collapsing into a violent, feverish sickness. Her body is literally rejecting the alchemical magic of the bunnies, purging the pink pills and the bitter liquor, but her mind is still obsessed with them. She stalks their social media, watching them live out picture-perfect, wealthy holiday fantasies in ski chalets and luxury homes, while she starves in the dark. Desperate for comfort, she tries to find Ava's house, but the streets seem to shift and twist in the snow. When she returns to her room, she hallucinates Ava bringing her fresh cherries and placing a cold hand on her burning forehead, only for Ava to dissolve into air the moment she reaches out to touch her. Samantha is losing her grip on what is real and what is a projection of her fever-dream mind. On Christmas Eve, starving, freezing, and desperate, she wanders into an upscale grocery store. There, among the wealthy shoppers, she spots the mysterious, wolfish man from the bus stop. He is blatantly shoplifting luxury items, including pomegranates, the ancient mythological symbol of the underworld, the fruit Persephone ate that bound her to the dark forever. But before she can approach him, she is cornered by Ursula Fosco, the manipulative, eccentric leader of the creative writing department. Fosco sizes up Samantha's poverty with pitying, patronizing eyes and pressures her into attending her Yuletide feast that very night. This dinner party is a psychological trap of the highest order. Jonah is there, high, terrified, and writing a 90-page poem he literally cannot stop composing, his fingers bleeding onto the pages. But the real horror of the night is the caterer. It is one of the draft boys, a mutated creation, alive, wearing white cotton gloves to hide his deformed, alchemical hands. The bunnies did not just make these monsters for their own amusement. Those monsters have now been integrated into the very structure of this sick academic world. They are serving drinks to the faculty. The horror of this realization hits Samantha all at once, and she begins to laugh hysterically. But it is not her laugh. It is Ava's laugh. It is sharp, mocking, loud, and uncontrollable. She realizes she has to run before she is completely consumed by this madness. Fleeing into the freezing night, Samantha boards a city bus, where the mysterious thief from the grocery store is waiting for her. He knows her secrets. He looks into her eyes, calls her home, and steps off the bus into the swirling snow. Samantha follows him like a ghost through the dark, winding, labyrinthine alleys of the city. He is guiding her, leading her away from the university and back to where she belongs. But when he finally stops, they are standing in front of Ava's house. The thief vanishes into the mist, leaving Samantha alone in the dark. She runs to the door, pounding on it with her bare hands, but the house is cold, dark, and locked. As she looks closer, she realizes the foundation is leaning at a dangerous angle. The flowers in the garden are dead and rotted. The windows are thick with dust. It looks as though no one has lived here in years. This is the ultimate red flag. If Ava's house is a ruin, then who is Ava? And where has Samantha really been going all these months? Just as the dark threatens to swallow her whole, a single yellow light flickers on in the upstairs window, and Ava's silhouette appears. But in this house of mirrors, we have to ask, is Samantha seeing her savior, or is she looking at the architect of her own madness?
Samantha has fled the sterile, cultish nightmare of the Bunnies and runs straight back to Ava's apartment. Ava welcomes her home, wrapping her in blankets and literally dismantling her ties to the cult by carefully undoing her elaborate, bloody braids, diffusing the psychological bomb the Bunnies planted in her head. Safely wrapped in Ava's dark, incense-scented world, Samantha feels her identity returning. They write together, they drink, they dance. But pay close attention to how time behaves here. January, February, March. Months melt away in a surreal, dreamlike blur. This is not just cozy isolation. It is a psychological retreat from reality. Samantha is finally writing again, convinced she has reclaimed her soul and her art. But this piece is a terrifying illusion. It starts with a creaking sound from the ceiling, a heavy, rhythmic pacing. Ava casually reveals she has a lodger upstairs, a boy named Max. And when Max finally walks through the door, Samantha's blood runs cold. It is him, the man from the bus stop, the monstrous, axe-tattooed draft boy she created in the basement of the theater with her own hands. Only now, he is not a mindless, glitching hybrid. He is a fully formed, breathtakingly handsome, flesh and blood man. And he is intimately involved with Ava. This is where the story drops a massive clue about what is actually happening. As the three of them sit down to a dinner of roasted rabbit, a chillingly symbolic, cannibalistic nod to Max's origins, Samantha watches him in horror. His features seem to shift in the candlelight, resembling different men from her past, her fears, and her deepest desires. Even worse, Max begins quoting Samantha's most private, lonely journal entries directly to Ava, pretending they are his own thoughts. Why? Because Max is a physical projection of Samantha's subconscious. By loving Max, Ava is embracing a surrogate of Samantha,